My name is Angel. We're here because, well, we've been involved in this movement for a long time, since Michael Brown was murdered. We're here to support the labor movement. We're here to support, holding these police accountable for murdering Black and brown people. And we're here for people who are subject to disproportionately being arrested, convicted, and murdered.
And it seems like, as has been said at this rally, if there hadn't been a video of the murder of George Floyd, people would not even know about it. It would have been covered up. Is that going on every day, that there are these murders going on, people don't know about it because there's not a video?
I think this is happening all the time. This has been happening, I think, since the birth of our nation. And I think now we're living in the time of social media, and we have more media available to us at our hands. And so I think we're just now being able to see what has always been happening. So yeah, I think without video, we wouldn't have known about this. And the same thing happened, with Eric Garner in New York. And so I think we have sort of technology on our side as far as the movement goes.
And Juneteenth, you have the president going to Tulsa. Talk about that. And then, the rallies that he's going to have there and telling people they don't have to wear masks. It sounds like madness.
It's absolute madness, but do we expect anything less from him? Honestly, none of us are surprised. He wants to say that he didn't do it on purpose, but I think all of us who have half a brain know better. And you know what? We're not going to give any more energy to him. We're here for the people, and we're here to make a change, and our voices are being heard, and we can see that. We can see that our voices are being heard.
I'm Jesus Gonzalez. The connection, we've all seen the health disparities that are brought on by systemic racism. And there's that link. And as a student doctor, future physician, just being out here, it's a form of preventative medicine.
Why is there systemic racism in this country? And healthcare is part of that.
Well, I think it's been institutionalized. I think the way we've been raised in terms of, perceiving other colors as unequal, it yields, or it ends up with us physicians or us student doctors as treating them differently, just because it's been ingrained into our brains for such a long period of time.
And you now have 45 million people unemployed who are losing their health care. You have a capitalist healthcare system. Do you see a major crisis now in this country as far as even getting health care for people who are unemployed and oppressed?
Oh, of course. I volunteered at Highland Hospital, which is here in Oakland, California, for about 6 years. And the number of uninsured or underinsured has just been growing. As you mentioned, with unemployment, it's just becoming more difficult to obtain accessible health care and adequate health care.
And what do you see as the systemic solutions to this problem?
I think we need to invest more in our hospitals, invest more in the communities. I think the idea of defunding the police is important. I think it gets misinterpreted. I think some of those funds that go towards militarizing the police should be reinvested into the community.
And we spend trillions on war in other countries when people in this country are going to go hungry and can't get health care. What does that mean as far as priorities?
Well, it's always important to take care of our brothers and sisters worldwide, but we also, we have to put our country first as well. We can't forget about the homelessness issue we have here in Oakland, California, here in America. That has to be addressed as well.
And what is the homeless situation in Oakland, California?
Well, I remember the police department gave me a staggering number in the thousands that was estimated, but he confessed that it might be even larger. And it just keeps growing, and I'm sure with this latest pandemic, that number is probably on the rise.
How can people who are homeless take care of their health and prevent them from being contaminated with COVID?
That's an excellent question. I know there's a handful of accessible shelters where they provide hygienic products. I think that's a start, but it's going to be a challenge being out in the streets.
And working at Highland Hospital, public health hospital that was privatized, actually, it's under private management. Can you talk about the worker that was fired there? Apparently there was a nurse who was fired because he had to wear a garbage bag.
I'm unaware of that situation. I haven't been there in about a year and a half, and I wouldn't be able to speak on that.
But public health seems to be in crisis in the United States, in Oakland and around the country.
Oh yeah, it's always been in crisis. I'm actually coming from, training in New Mexico, and we have to reuse PPE equipment. We work with whatever the state government gives us. We have face shields where we have to literally glue on or tape together.
What does it say about this country, the richest country in the world, one of the richest countries in the world? You have billionaires, 170 billionaires in California, and you don't even have PPE, proper PPE? You have to reuse it?
We're investing in the wrong things. I'm not saying, completely eliminate police, but I'm saying, do we really need to militarize? Or in terms of spending, it's so disproportionate compared to the second and third countries, which I believe are China and India. We're spending so much on military. A little bit of that can be reinvested back into the community, into a healthcare system, into education, into more community programs.
It sounds like a survival issue for millions of people now.
Oh, of course, yeah. A lot of lives are in danger without the preventative health care.
I'm Brenda Barros. I'm a SEIU 1020 member who works out in public health at San Francisco General Hospital. Well, this action holiday is based on all the different things that have been going on for years. We all knew it. The black population knew it. But now, it seems like a majority of the public is finally woken up to the fact that blacks are not treated right. And so Juneteenth seems like the perfect day, which it should be a city holiday, a government holiday, to let our voices be heard.
And when you talk about racism, systemic racism, what does that mean for black workers in the city and county of San Francisco?
Well, what that means for black workers in the city and county of San Francisco is, for many, many years, a lot of us have dealt with all the microaggressions that happen every day. And so it's impacted people's health. There's a reason many, many black people have high blood pressure. It's because of the extra stress. And so, a lot of people are getting to the point now where they're tired of it and they're willing to speak up.
And there have been hearings in the city and county of San Francisco last year, over systemic racism, blatant racism. Why were those hearings held, and has anything changed?
Well, it was held because a few workers, and I was one of them, we just got fed up. It's just like we can't take it anymore. I'm a 40-something year employee with the city. I don't have much time left working with the city. I can't leave it, I'm determined not to leave it worse off for the next generation than it was when I come. All this behavior, all the things that have happened, how the EEO system has failed us, it needs to stop and it needs to change.
And ethnic cleansing, is that going on?
Absolutely, in San Francisco. There's a reason that the population in San Francisco has gone down to as few as it is. Because they've been driven out of the city. They've been driven out of the workplace. They've been driven out of housing. And so it's hard for San Franciscans, black San Franciscans, to live in San Francisco. Many of them, the ones that I know that own homes, most of them inherited their homes from their parents who were able to buy homes back in the day. But, that number is going down as they die off. People can't afford to keep their houses, and so they're ending up being sold. And when they're bought, they're not bought by black people.
And you yourself had an experience trying to get a house in San Francisco.
Absolutely.
Why don't you talk about that?
Well, absolutely. I looked for 2 years trying to get a house in San Francisco. So I went to the mortgage company. We found the house. We put the thing. We were supposed to be going into escrow, but then the bank said they would not give me a loan in that district.
What bank was?
Not get a loan in that district.
What bank was that?
No bank would. We went to multiple banks. No bank would. But after that, I got fed up. So I said, well, let me go try another city. So I went out to Antioch. Found the house. First day I went looking. The mortgage company approved it, and that's why I'm living in Antioch now.
So the banks were involved in this?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely they were.
Now the city and many cities around the United States now are facing massive financial situation. There's some cities and states may go bankrupt. You have 45 million people unemployed. What are they saying to the public workers in San Francisco, city workers?
Well, what they want us to do is they want us to pitch in. They want us to help. And I feel like public workers, especially us designated public workers, we've been going to work every day. We've been putting our lives on the line every day. And our question to the city is, what more do you want?
And there's 75 billionaires in San Francisco, one of the richest cities in the world. Why aren't they going after the billionaires? It seems like frontline workers are going to take the brunt of these cutbacks.
There is so much wealth in San Francisco, and I think that they threaten to move their businesses out, and they hold their money over the head of city officials, and it has an impact, and the impact is on everybody else. You know, the taxpayers, you know, they get their taxes increased instead of these people paying. The schools have to cut instead of these people paying. Right now, I believe that these rich billionaires who say they support the cities and all this, they need to get off the greedy train and really pitch in and really help. They do little bits and pieces of things, but the level of sacrifice me as a city employee has been asked to make is way beyond whatever because our lives are invaluable.
And you yourself as a frontline worker were screening people at the hospital, San Francisco General Hospital. Why don't you talk about that experience and the lack of PPE for...
Well, the first time I came in, I don't know why, and this goes back to discrimination too. My boss, I was picked, I have no idea. I was just called in and said, tomorrow you're going to be in the lobby. I didn't even know what it was. And when we went down there, we were just sitting there with the desk, with people standing over us talking, no masks. They wouldn't let us wear masks.
They wouldn't let you wear masks in the middle of a pandemic.
Initially, they would not let us wear masks. No, they wouldn't.
In the middle of a pandemic.
They had to be saved for the doctors and the nurses, all the masks, so they would not allow us to have masks. What the problem with that is, doctors and nurses, they do the direct care for the patients. That's true enough. But before that patient gets to that doctor and nurse, that patient gets to us, and we get exposed. And as eligibility workers, which is what that classification is, you have to ask people questions. Sometimes you might have to spend 10, 15, 20 minutes with that person, only to find out later that you've been exposed.
Did you have the right to have tests?
Honestly, what I had to do is they had the restrictions so hard to being able to be tested. You pretty much had to wait until you got sick to be tested, or have somebody sick in your house to be tested. So honestly, I'm just going to admit it. I lied so I could get tested. I told them I had symptoms that I didn't have, particularly at that moment, so that I could get tested. And it wasn't for me I did it. I did it for all those patients that I was having contact to. And my biggest nightmare is for me to have it and pass it on to one of our patients.
And today, Juneteenth, in Tulsa, they're getting ready for a rally. Trump is going to go there tomorrow and have a rally. They're telling people you don't have to wear masks. You're not required to wear a mask.
Well, I mean, he's giving people their death warrants, right? All of the people are not going to get sick. But there are going to be some people that do. And all those people that get sick, if any of those people die, then that's on his head as President of the United States. Because he did nothing to protect those people. Because he's encouraging them to behave in a way that will not protect themselves.
So what do you say to all the people in the United States, working people here and around the world, about what we're facing? Because this pandemic is not going away. People are still getting sick. Oh
yeah, people are getting sick. What I think is we have to remain cautious. People need to wear their masks. The selfish people out there, the governor just made it mandatory in California that if you're out in public, you have to wear a mask, which is good. But, unless there's some sort of enforcement, unless these businesses enforce this, then they're putting us all at risk too.
And you contacted Cal OSHA, your members contacted Cal OSHA. What was the response of Cal OSHA?
Well, some of our members, one I know in particular, did contact Cal OSHA. And as a result of it, what they did was they moved her. So basically they retaliated on her for pointing out that in the workplace she was not safe.
Isn't that illegal? Retaliate against them?
Absolutely, it's illegal. But, who are we going to... Everything is on hold because of COVID. It's very difficult to get anything done that's not directly related to COVID. I don't know why they didn't do that. I don't know why people are being allowed to do that. The onus of that is really on, the people that run our human resources. They just haven't done a great job in protecting us lately.
That's so unnecessary. That's so unnecessary. That was probably like 5 minutes.
I work for Oakland Public Library.
And the budget cuts, they're basically saying that the cities are going to have to maybe even go bankrupt throughout California, the states. What does it say about priority in this country that public workers may close the post office in September? I mean, what are your thoughts about that, and what is facing working people in this country?
Our priorities are deeply screwed. It's, they've crunched the numbers on the budget for Oakland and determined that basically the overtime that the police make, just the budget for their overtime would fund the OPL for an entire year, and it's deeply irresponsible to keep funding the wrong things at the expense of the people.
And a lot of the libraries have been closed because of the pandemic. You have thousands and thousands of people homeless in Oakland. I mean, what is going on?
Well, I mean, I really couldn't speak to that. I mean, the libraries are closed because, in order to protect the workers. But at the same time, it does, sacrifice a space that a lot of homeless people in Oakland need on a regular basis and utilize on a regular basis. So it's a double-edged sword, really.
Are you optimistic about what's going to happen in this country?
I try to be. I want to be. I mean, this, the way that the people of Oakland come out and represent for everybody, in solidarity and support is amazing. And the fact that it's been going on, for 22 solid days now, with no end in sight. I mean, I think that says a lot about people's perseverance and, their willingness to try and affect change. I hope that things will be more positive.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Just one gun is all it takes to get it started. Living in the wilderness of the West, we cold-hearted. If you don't think it can happen, then again, my son.
Good.
Good day.
Good. There you go.
Max Gretzky. I just thought this was an important cause to support. I just thought it was kind of time that people speak up, can't be complicit. I thought it was important to kind of protest, get your voice out there, and support other people.
Thank you.
My name is Cristina Moreno. I'm here in solidarity with our black brothers and sisters, because unless there's freedom for everybody, there's freedom for none of us. So as workers and as white people, we can leverage our privilege in any way possible to contribute to this fight.
And what kind of work do you do?
I'm actually a restaurant worker who's out of work at the moment. So I'm a full-time government paid protester. The government is paying me to be here out here every single day, so that's why I'm here.
And a lot of unemployed people are out in the streets now, 45 million. You think this is going to grow? Because what plan does this system have for 45 million?
There is no plan. We don't have health insurance. They're not going to fund another bill for us for any kind of stimulus package. They've already made that clear. So this just gives us more time on our hands to organize.
First time in history.
It is. This is a monumental time, and I can't wait for Miss Angela to speak.
I'm Patrick. I work at Anchor's team, Local 6, ILWU.
And what does this day today mean to you, Juneteenth, and the action by the ILWU and others?
We're here for support with the locals 10, 75, and 91. They started all this. They wanted to make a huge message. They've shut down ports before. This is the first time it's been on June 19th, and it's in response to the police brutality that's happening in America and across the world. We're here in support to show our brothers and sisters at those locals that even though we can't shut down a port, we're willing to show up in force as well.
And the ILWU is kind of taking the lead on this. Why is the ILWU the probably one of the few unions in the United States, the only union that's really stopping work today and urging people to come together, all workers, union and non-union?
I mean, the ILWU has a radical history. They were one of the first unions to integrate African American people back in the 30s. We have a lot of diversity in our ports. Like this, specifically, Local 10 is a predominantly African American local. And I mean, that's part of the reason that we joined the ILWU is because we saw all this history that these guys have been a part of, and like we wanted to be a part of it and help out.
And the democratic tradition of the ILWU, is that one of the things that you think is important?
Oh yeah, definitely. Like, I'm not trying to bring ourselves into it, but we were able to build our contract from the ground up, and that was on us to do that, and we thought that was a very important thing for us because we wanted to make it, instead of having a bigger union come in and say this is what the contract is and you could change little things if you want. We built it from the ground up, and we're super appreciative of that.
You know, there are 45 million workers unemployed in the United States now. Most are unorganized. There's no mobilization by the trade union movement to demand jobs and national health care. What has to change in the labor movement to really transform the situation?
More organization and bring in a whole bunch of like people like us that are like younger folks that are super passionate about being part of the whole labor movement.
Are you optimistic?
I'm super optimistic. I mean, we unionized one of the first craft breweries in America. Like, of course I'm optimistic.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
My name is Maddie Anderson. I'm a teacher in San Jose, and I'm here because Black Lives Matter. The police in this country are an abusive force, and systemic racism is out of control, and I want to make a statement for everybody, and especially for my students, that these issues matter, and that it takes a mass movement to topple a system like the one that currently exists.
And in San Jose, there have been mass protests, 25,000, and the response of the police, the mayor, what kind of reaction have they had to people speaking up?
The police have been violent and abusive, and I mean, the police should be defunded, and we should be funding education, we should be funding healthcare, we should be funding parks, public transportation, programs for youth. I think those are major steps that need to happen in order for anything to be improved, and I think this is a really important moment for those things to start to happen. We haven't seen a moment like this in history.
My name is Yesenia Rubio. I am also a teacher. I teach in Morgan Hill, 4th grade, and I stand here in solidarity with my Black and brown community. I do come from a family of dreamers, so I'm also supporting them. I think as a teacher it is important for us to share multicultural history, not only the history that is given to us through the textbooks. As teachers, we feel it is very important that our youth learn the real history and dismantle everything that has been occurring through colonization. Sorry. So we're standing here in solidarity.
And President Trump said he's making Juneteenth knowledgeable. Nobody knew about Juneteenth. I mean, you find that rather strange?
I find that rather strange. I think Juneteenth, we were just talking about it, it should be a holiday. It should be recognized nationally. It should be an event that everyone, the whole entire nation should stop, and we should commemorate and acknowledge everything that has occurred in history.
And the attack on immigrants, the attack on Latinos in this country, terrorism, it's not just against the Black community. How has that affected the children in the schools in California, which is majority immigrant, majority Latino and Black?
It's affecting them greatly. We have ICE and the deportations and the students and youths being in cages, and that's dehumanizing the children. Children deserve to have a life where they can be in playgrounds, be in schools, and not in cages. That is just ridiculous, and we should all stand, and we should all be able to come together. And only like this, things are going to happen and things are going to change by coming together. We have the power, and through our voice, I feel like we can make changes occur.
And are your students involved?
My student parents are involved. They've gone to protest. Yeah. Students are they're staying at home because of the pandemic, and they're trying to stay safe at home. But parents are going out and protesting in Morgan Hill and in San Jose.
And how do students survive with the online? A lot of poor students don't even have internet access. It's very difficult for poor students to survive in this situation.
Yeah, that was very problematic. We were able to give them Chromebooks and internet, but we know that that's not happening across all schools, especially schools that do not have enough funding for electronics. So it's been very hard, even to have them get internet access. Yeah.
This is a center of the tech industry, the billionaires, all these tech companies, and yet you don't have internet access for your students? I mean, is that part of the problem in this country?
That is part of the problem, of course. We have all the fluent areas, getting all the technology, getting all the programs, getting all the support, but our students, black and brown students, are not getting any of that funding into their schools because they don't live in areas that are wealthy.
Is that part of systemic racism?
Absolutely. Absolutely, it is.
And your union, is your union supporting this, and do you think they should support these?
I work at a charter school, so we do not have a union yet, but teachers, we're planning on getting together and forming a union for us.
Hi, I'm Pamela Price. I'm a civil rights attorney and a supporter of the ILWU.
And you were at a hearing. There was a hearing held yesterday for the A's who want to take over Howard Terminal to buy the Coliseum for the city of Oakland. Why is that an important issue for working people, and what does that mean to longshoremen and working people of Oakland?
I represent the Oakland East Bay Democratic Club, and we are against the Howard Terminal project because we understand that it prioritizes profits over people, and that bringing that terminal and abandoning the Coliseum will destabilize the entire black community in both West and East Oakland and accelerate our displacement from Oakland.
Well, Mayor Libby Schaaf says that it would benefit Oakland, and she's supporting John Fisher's effort to take over Howard Terminal. What does that say about the direction of the city of Oakland?
Mayor Libby Schaaf is a failed leader in Oakland. She has supported and prioritized police violence, police oppression. She cares little about the black community. We know that our homelessness issue, our unhoused population is up to 80% black, including seniors, and that has been an abomination under her administration. Homelessness has increased by 40% in Oakland under her watch. So we know that she does not prioritize people over profits. And she could care less about black people in Oakland. So the fact that the A's want to leave the Coliseum simply because it would empower a black neighborhood if you invested in the Coliseum is not unexpected of Mayor Schaaf.
And a few days ago, Carlos Gabriel, a worker who spoke out about health and safety at Tesla, was fired by Elon Musk. What is the relationship? It seems like workers who speak out about health and safety or racist practices, they get terminated, and there's really no protection, and there's no union, of course, at Tesla. But you have some experience with Elon Musk and Tesla.
I do. I've sued Tesla, and I've represented workers who have been the victim of retaliation. I have to tell people that, unfortunately, anytime you stand up and speak out against economic injustice or oppression in the workplace, you're going to be retaliated against. And as a civil rights lawyer, I can only do one by one case and try to help people in that way. That's why you have to have unions, and you have to have elected leaders that do represent the interests of the people and that are willing to fight for workers' rights. And that's what we need in Alameda County.
And also you've been involved in the case of Mark Peterson, former district attorney at Contra Costa. I mean, it seems like he was covering up murders, allowing the police. Why don't you talk about the lessons of that whole struggle?
Sure. A few years ago, we challenged Mark Peterson in Contra Costa County. At that time, I was working with the Contra Costa County Coalition for Racial Justice, and we were very active in pointing out the inequities in the criminal justice system in Contra Costa County, and we opened the door and led the way for the first black woman to become the district attorney of Contra Costa County, and that's Dinah Becton. We fought that same battle in Alameda County. We didn't have quite the result we wanted. We fought the same battle in San Francisco County, and we got Chesa Bowden. So change is happening all around us.
My name's Kristen, and I'm retired SEIU, And it just seems important to me to everybody to show up and say the police have got to be stopped. And I am just overwhelmed that they've shut down the West Coast for George Floyd.
My name's Toby Blome with Bay Area Code Pink.
You're here on Juneteenth. What does it mean to you, this Juneteenth and the state we're in this country?
Well, the biggest virus we face in this country, I saw it on a sign the other day, so I'm stealing the message. The biggest virus in the country is racism. And this is all about people rising up to say no more, to stop the racist police killings. Black lives are as precious and valuable as anybody else, and they should be protected in the same way. We need to abolish the police ultimately. We're not quite ready to do that yet in our system, but in the long term we want to abolish the prison system that exists and abolish the police system and really create a society that's safe for everybody.
And the militarization, not just of the police, the Israeli government is training the police in this country with chokeholds, but also the amount of money that the United States spends on weapons and militarization. You've been involved for many, many years fighting militarization. Why don't you talk about that whole issue of the role of the military in the United States and the amount of funds that are spent on the military?
Well, yeah, I mean, our tax dollars, more than half of it goes to the Pentagon, and and with all these endless wars, most Americans aren't even thinking about it because it's not in the media. It's whitewashed wars that continue, supported by Democrats and Republican Party. And they're racist wars. People of color are primarily being killed. We slaughter huge numbers of people with remotely controlled drone missiles. Really one of the biggest crimes of our century. And we need to demilitarize our local police, and we need to de-police our military because they shouldn't be out in the world, so-called policing the world. People have a right in these countries to be without being under surveillance of the U.S. Government. And in the wars, in the police violence.
It seems like in the midst of this depression in the United States, 45 million people unemployed, neither the Democrats or Republicans are saying we have to redirect the military resources. They're not even talking about massive budget cuts of the military. What does that say about the political alternatives people have, Biden and Trump?
For me personally, it tells me I don't have any hope in the Democratic Party, and I don't think the goal is just to get rid of Trump. We had 8 years of Obama, and the policies got worse under 8 years of a Democratic president, so we really need to look seriously about that. And also, you know, the U.S. military uses more fossil fuel than any other entity in the world. So if we care about the climate crisis, which is one of the number one problems we face, we need to end these wars just to stop the use of this grotesque amount of fossil fuel that's not, and the pollution that comes out of all the wars, not just burning fossil fuel, but all the toxic chemicals that the military, the Pentagon uses and pollutes the land and sea and air of these countries. So they have high rates of cancer. It's so abominable, and it just keeps going on. And why don't these so-called liberals think about that? Why do we keep electing politicians that support these horrible crimes that the U.S. commits in the world? We need to really realize this voting for the lesser of evil should never have been accepted. Why do we accept voting for an evil, for Christ's sake? Think about that.
Well, I mean, the state of affairs in this country, the choice that we're getting between the Democrats and Republicans is Trump versus Biden. What does that say about our country?
It doesn't say. It's a very good thing, and Biden is openly saying we need to fund the police more when this rising of people around the country and around the world is saying defund the police. So what is Biden going to offer us? More of the same.
Nancy Pelosi, who's from the Bay Area and is the main opposition leader of the Democrats, apparently she supported the militarization of the police. She supported the crime bill, 1994 crime bill that Biden was also supporting.
Yeah.
You have some experience with
It turned my stomach when I saw Nancy Pelosi get down on her knees with her African-colored neck scarf with all the other Democratic leadership getting down on their knees as if they really care about black lives. It's just a joke. It's all just to get votes. And so we've got to really look at what these people are doing behind closed doors and even openly.
My name is Max. I'm a member of East Bay DSA. I'm out here today because I support the labor stoppage. I believe that if we want to disarm the police, if we want to defund the police, we can do so with the power of labor stoppages. Only with the power of labor and stopping production where it occurs can we actually accomplish our demands, including defunding the police and ending white supremacy and racism in this country.
And do you think that this government is going to do it, and the Democrats? You think the Democrats are going to do it?
The Democrats are our enemy. The Republicans are our enemy. They will not do it unless we make them do it. And we can make them do it by leveraging the power of labor stoppages through strike actions like this one.
You think all unions should be out today? It's just mainly the ILWU, but other unions should take action on this day, Juneteenth?
I think it's important for all working people to stand together in solidarity and fight for our best interests, because an injury to one is an injury to all.